We play it. When I did not know no pain. If you like Latin music, we play it. If you like rock and roll, we play it. Because no one does fusion music like we do. 91.1 FM, The Boss.
Programs presented are submitted by members of our community and are a proud sponsor of KNLY 91.1 FM. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect those of KNLY 91.1 FM, The Boss, and affiliates.
Everybody, welcome to Superhuman with Dr. V and Jason Phelps. I am Dr. V, and I own Core Sports Health in Conroe, where we kind of, really take a root cause, approach, to functional medicine and kind of addressing all the symptoms that kind of everybody's experienced with COVID right now. Fatigue, the COVID-15. So we use kind of an overall holistic approach, functional medicine approach to kind of address everything. From hormonal balance to a lot of other things. Food is medicine. So, and with me always is Jason Phelps. And
good to be back after taking a week off.
Yeah. How's Colorado?
It was good. I wandered around the mountains.
Awesome.
And spent a couple days just unplugged, which was much needed after all this. It was a mental health break, and God, it was just the right time for it. So it was nice. But it's good to be back. And as always, you can find me at
TWC
Prep, the Woodlands Contest Prep, and right now you can find me at Legacy Barbell, and pretty much anywhere.
And
in
me
the
too.
Woodlands. Yeah, and Willie too. We're invading.
Yeah,
it's been a great place.
And we're going to get Jennifer there too.
That's right.
Speaking of, welcome everybody, Dr. Jennifer Hennesey Bremseth. We've known her for many years, both Jason and I. She's a veterinarian, owns Animal ER of Northwest Houston. Along with that, she's a busy mom, IFBB Pro, Miss Alaska. She's annual vet for the famous Iditarod race in Alaska. So, really want to have a lot of questions, on that. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Glad to have you. There's a lot of things we want to cover, not just from animals. I have a lot of questions about kind of what's going on with COVID from an animal perspective. And then just business-wise, so the first question, honestly, is like how's business been? I know you never stop,
right?
But how has business been during the whole COVID era that we've been going through?
Absolutely. Well, and thanks for having me here today.
Yeah.
I'd love to share everything. And fortunately, we're essential, but being an emergency, we're always busy, which is kind of a sad thing, but a reality. We've actually been probably 4 or 5 times as busy every day since March, since all of this started, and that spreads over the entire veterinary industry. It's been fairly brutal, just in the demands and just stretching our staff very thin, but we're hanging in there.
Yeah. And so this is a question, and I've had a lot, because you've probably seen it in the news, and you heard about like the tigers getting the COVID and all these other things, on the news. So what are y'all actually seeing as has COVID? Has that actually affected animals? Have you seen that in actually animals, or what's going on with that? Is there actual transmission, or?
There's not. I'd say definitely there's a huge impact from COVID on us, but it's more from the practice standpoint and the management of cases and clients. But animals going back, actually are susceptible to coronavirus, which is what COVID is. And it goes particularly into the cats. So that turns into feline FIP, which is a condition that goes way back. and actually part of our puppy vaccinations contains basically canine coronavirus in it. So it's been something we've dealt with already prior, but just not the COVID strain. Currently, the last words in the last interview I did that animals were clear and safe from any contraction, though lately, as of I think this week, there has been one dog that did test positive, which has raised some concerns. So
of the actual SARS-CoV of
Yes.
the strain. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm still looking for sort of the legitimacy of that and the accuracy versus you can't trust media too much these days. So I'm still waiting to really hear. But it was shared through our Texas Veterinary News Network and things online. So definitely looking into that and whether or not that is the first real case. We were concerned that primarily cats and ferrets were sensitive to the SARS-CoV, that they could be exposed to it, but they wouldn't contract the symptoms nor be contagious.
So are the symptoms similar to what people
Reportedly,
get?
they'd be similar.
Okay.
Yes.
So as a pet owner, what are some of the things that you should kind of be on the lookout for if you think there's a exposure?
Well, I'd say with anything, and there's probably been lots of exposure just
Right.
based on all the people they report being positive. The first thing is distance from your pet, and that continues to be reported, is to separate, as hard as that is, because when we're sick, we want to cuddle in bed, and we want our little fuzzy ones to be with us. That's probably not a good idea until all of this shakes out. We do know that the virus mutates, which is fairly normal for most virus strains, and so to me there's always the umbrella of just the unknown of what it might turn into and where that might go. So have friends, family, or somebody else take care of your pets is the report. But right now we are seeing clients actually come in, and most of them, not all, but some, will be very honest up front and report that they are either isolated or tested positive, and we still need to treat their pet. And we're just rinsing the animal off and kind of doing a medicated bath and then proceeding forward with our evaluation, of course, the donating PPE, but we've not seen any pets linked.
That's good.
So symptomatic-wise, I think that that's still out there. Anytime a pet is acting different, especially right now, all that should trigger is that you should see your vet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about that on the break, but we have our pet that just literally, we went away for the weekend. We have a little Boston Libby, and we dropped her off at this weekend
Pet
pet
retreat?
hotel,
Yeah.
and she's awesome. She's Erin Conroe, but we dropped her off, and when she notices, she called us right away as we were on the road, and she says, "Hey, have you did she have a stroke since the last time you see it?" Like, she just is acting different, and so when other people notice, she's just very lethargic, but then she has days where she's just up. So we'll be coming in to see you for that. But yeah, she's just acting different. She's just acting different. So just so everybody knows, and just medically and from veterinary standpoint, coronavirus, SARS-CoV it's a specific strain, right? But coronaviruses, we've been around them forever. A coronavirus is a cold virus. This is just a different strain. So yes, animals can. Does that mean that it's a specific SARS-CoV? We just, with a lot of things, we don't know yet. We don't know yet. So now, one of the things I really want to ask right away is about your experience up at the Iditarod, because I've seen all the pictures and I've seen, number one, for kind of for the listeners, can you explain what that I haven't heard of it, of the Iditarod race? What is that? Because it's super famous, but I know a lot of people may not have heard about that, and you're an annual vet there with them. So what is the Iditarod race?
Well, and the hardest part, I think, at first people worry, how do I pronounce this?
Yeah.
But the Iditarod is a historic race, actually, that was created in Alaska years ago, but ironically, when they were having basically an epidemic in Nome, and it was for the diphtheria toxin. And so the race started as the mushers were the only way to cross the state to go to Anchorage to actually get the serum, the antitoxin, to get that back to Nome. And so in honor of that, and also the historic mail trails, which the only way, again, around those terrains is not from conventional vehicles. Back then, and even today, some of the terrain is completely uncharted and off the grid. So the only way you safely can go is with your dog pack. So in honor of that, it's a very prestigious race that continues forward. It's the first weekend of every March, and they have an event called Verandi, and they have releasing of reindeer, and it's a whole thing downtown, just again to honor the history behind that. I'm fortunate enough to have now a position on the veterinary team.
Cool.
So I go up, and it is all voluntary and amazing. It's hundreds of volunteers that are consistent every year, from staging the supplies. This is a little over 1,000 miles. It's basically the same if we traverse from Houston today up to Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Wow. That's a long ways.
And we're talking the warmest days would be about maybe 20 degrees. Definitely it goes down to negative 40 from there. But on the trail, probably the most adventurous parts for me, my biggest fear is flying and little bitty planes, so I had to overcome that really quick because that's how they move us around, is actually volunteer retired pilots that would fly us in their 2
go
seaters.
along with the race. You kind of jump
We
ahead
do.
of them,
We're
they catch
about
up to
2
you.
days ahead of the mushers, and they stage 3 to 4 veterinarians, and they have a checkpoint that is required for the mushers to actually pull in and stop, and either that's where they've previously flown their food or previously flown their supplies. And when the dogs come through, I think last year there was around 785 dogs. Wow. So when every dog comes through our checkpoint, again, there might be 3 or 4 of us at the most in 0-degree temperatures. We camp out there and basically wait for them to arrive, set up the camp, and then we do physical exams on every dog that comes
What are
through.
some of the common things you see in the dogs?
Most of the mushers are so in tune that they doctor things on the trail, and they kind of see things. They'll pull a dog off the line and actually put it in their sled and let it, rest for 2 to 6 hours. And they really know them well because they want to preserve them.
Right.
They're allowed to start with so many, and they're allowed to drop so many in order to maintain the requirements. But we look primarily for pneumonia as kind of the killer on the trail. And those dogs are so hyper. They're so conditioned. They eat like the equivalent of like 80 Big Macs throughout the race to like stay fed. We're talking salmon, just really high-end foods that they have for them, and they are just nonstop energy. Like, it's addicting because they just have a joy for life. They have a joy for the race. They have quite a relationship and husbandry with their musher, who basically hand raises them. But we look for evidence of disease, which can be, of course, frostbite, fatigue. If they're too thin, we worry about conditioning. But primarily, we're listening to the lungs and looking for fevers and other reasons that they might not be fit to continue forward. Again, on terrain where there's nobody else, for maybe 2 more days, 3 more days before we can check them again. And if we have concerns, we can pull them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a tough call to make.
It is, and there's a lot of officials there to help us decide, and the mushers typically will cooperate, but we might elect. I know we had one that we elected to keep the dog an extra day, which the musher definitely was okay with that, and if the dog cleared the following day, she elected to take it back on the trail, which she did, and they ended up finishing the top 10.
Oh, wow.
But it was the precaution. We never want anything ill to happen to those dogs, and neither do they. But it's very competitive. They've trained all year. They've qualified for it. But the biggest thing is the veterinarians come from everywhere, like England, Australia, Norway, Canada, and so the colleagues that I've gotten to meet and the experience they have is so unique to anything that I could come across in Texas, that it's just broadened my perspective of veterinary medicine, but also my skills, because I have no tests, I have no equipment, I have nothing except for my hands, and my experiences to really drive that whole physical, and I know that a lot is on the line, depending on what I find.
So being out, and say you get ahead of them, do you have a chance to kind of explore a little bit?
We did 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We landed in actually the ghost town of Iditarod, which is smack dab in the middle of Alaska. We landed there, and there's basically abandoned a whole town that they just completely abandoned after all the gold ran out, and they just left everything. Of course, we're buried in snow, so it was a little precarious to kind of watch our step, but we had about 24 hours to just sort of plod around and explore and just kind of look at stuff, because everything there was left behind. So it was pretty fantastic.
So do you run across the wildlife there? Like, is that something you're exposed to? Or like,
well, when I'm in Alaska,
polar
anytime
bears
you run into
and-
wildlife.
Yeah.
Anytime I go out there, but actually the safest is during the race. They actually have trail sweeps who come before and after to kind of ready the trail and look for issues, and then follow the mushers like miles to days back just to sweep the trail for any debris left behind, because they want to preserve the state in the natural way that it should be left. But I think because the people migrating through that trail constantly over those 2 weeks
Kind of scares off a lot.
Yeah, and the volunteers who I met the last 2 times I've gone are so seasoned. They have everything covered, so if there was an issue, I'm not worried.
It sounds exciting to me, just being out.
The hardest part is the 0-degree bathroom, which is your tent on the snow, on the 0-degree lake, and kind of adapting and not letting it get to you mentally, and just taking it as an adventure.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
How did you get involved in it first?
It's an application.
Yeah.
I literally heard a veterinarian in Texas did it and thought, oh my gosh,
How cool
I've got
is
to
that?
try. I've got to try for this. And they have very select seats, and they have quite a high bit of requirements, but there's not a lot of emergency veterinarians applying to do it. Most of them are surgeons or, from the physical standpoint, athletic dogs, performance dogs. And the fact that I have a canine rehab kind of elevated, I think, some of the interest and qualifications. So I feel very lucky that I got on the team when I did. And I definitely want to honor it by being there every year if I can. This last year I had to fly back from Nome right before everybody ended up finishing. And that's like your premier point. You want to get to Nome to the checkpoint and actually be at the finish line. So it was a blessing to be there. But with COVID, they were shutting the borders of Canada, and my staff here, of course, were stressing out because the boss was away and possibly unreachable and got stuck. So I elected to come back early. So I'm hoping to redeem that for 2021.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's open again.
Yes.
And everybody's running again.
I think they'll run it. Whether they let us come from out of state is my biggest question mark. I've already accepted the re-invite, but I don't know, like with all this going on, especially in Houston, if that's going to sort of put a big black mark on me and whether or not
it's a ways off, so I would hope to God that by March of next year.
So.
It'll be post-election by then.
It'll be post-election. Yeah.
Everything changes at that point, right?
Yeah, one way or another it will.
Well, we'll think positive, and I can come on after that one and tell you all about that one
as
well.
Absolutely. So we're going to take our very first break, for commercials from our sponsors, and we'll be right back in about 2 minutes.
Hi everyone, this is Chef Laurent. I'm the owner of Taste of Paris, a catering company for seniors. If you want to know more about our services, give us a call at 832-415-7374 or visit our webpage at laurentvalsculinary.com. Thank you.
This was a proud sponsor of KNLY 91.1 FM. We are broadcasting live from the Woodlands, Texas to the world. You're listening to the only multimedia FM station in Houston, Texas. Your Fusion Radio. Top 40s, dance, Latin, country, pop, rock and roll. All in one station. Mixing genres and generations. You're listening to KNLY New Waverly, Texas. 91.1 FM, The Boss.
Turn on your glam today. The Jenna Klein collection is here. Elaborated with natural products. Give yourself a compliment with our organic lip glosses in more than 15 shades. With the Jenna Klein Lip Gloss collection, you can hydrate your lips and keep that glamorous look that you need. Turn on your glam. Visit jennaklein.com. And don't forget our skincare collection with natural ingredients that will improve the skin's appearance and prevent visible signs of aging. We have everything you need to achieve smooth and vitalized skin. jennaklein.com. Turn on your glam today.
This was a proud sponsor of KNLY 91.1 FM.
And we're back. Welcome to Superhuman with Dr. V and Jason Phelps. We wanted to kind of cut it at that point because I really want to get into all the competitive side and all the other accolades that that Jennifer has. One thing I noticed is and I was going to show it to everybody is I saw you post a picture of this Virofen.
Yep.
This is something that I have really been recommending to a lot of patients. A lot of people just have fear, anxiety about, what should I be taking? What should myself, Dr. Chase Banks, and Dr. Hogan, Justin Hogan at LB Wellness, we've been really using this a lot with our patients, and just recommending it. Everybody's asking about what supplements and what immune health can we do to help with our immune health. And we've really liked this. It's basically called Virofen, and it's a viral attachment inhibitor. What it does, it's just activated humic acid and L-lysine, and both of those substances have a lot of studies in the NIH on their efficacy and use against viruses. So, it's just a good insurance plan. It's we're not saying it's going to prevent it. We can't say anything can prevent a virus, but it'll make you more pretty much more resilient and increase the immune system. So everybody just pretty much needs to be minding their immune system, period. And we've talked about in the previous shows about vitamin D, zinc. There's a whole list. But
not only that, but the activities. What can you do as a person to make yourself stronger, make yourself more resilient?
Absolutely. From training to getting out in the sun, hiking like you were doing in Colorado, getting some sleep, which I'm about to harp on Jennifer about. So
Let's bottle that.
Yeah.
Give me a bottle of sleep.
Exactly. So number one, you're super busy. I know half the time when I either text or talk with you, it's when you've kind of hit a wall or you've hit, because you do a lot of 24s, and just like you said, it's really increased as far as how busy y'all are, especially taking up the slack for a lot of, unfortunately the COVID era has really caused a lot of businesses, a lot of other ERs, a lot of other people to kind of go out of business. And luckily y'all are doing very well and have taken up the slack, but that adds on to the other stress, lack of sleep. So one of the things is it's very idealistic for me to say, hey, get some sleep, and you need it, but what do you do specifically to, number one, because it's a lot of stuff, we talk about it a lot, to try to stay healthy, remain resilient, to increase your immunity? So what specific approaches, are you doing right now with your busy schedule and with everything, what are you doing right now as far as that?
I definitely am the first to admit I push my body to the brink, and I hope that demonstrates that everyone can push a little farther, but we all have a breaking point, which I've definitely come too close to and realized, and so I do appreciate as well pretty much anything you recommend or support I'm putting in my body, because sleep is not my option for recovery. So right now, most of my days, I think I'm getting about 4 hours of sleep every other day. Which is about 16 to 20 a week at the most. And in between, that 20 hours is more intense than a word I could even explain, with the demands and pressures of being the business owner, but being the main veterinarian and trying to support, my new staff and train new staff, and then extended our hours. We went 24 hours because of COVID. So instead of working my normal 24s, now I'm working day plus supervising my rehab, and then working the night and supervising new vets, and then starting new staff, and then consulting on the side. And so veterinary medicine is 24/7. But in order to sustain, the first thing I do is I don't let myself feel tired mentally as best that I can. To me, mental, health, but as well as the acknowledgement of whether I'm tired, fatigued, that closes the door for me immediately as soon as I accept defeat. And so I've always got to find things to just positive, in the day, and just really get my mind right that I'm going to keep going, and this is all worth it for the bigger picture, and just staying mentally encouraging, and that's important for the health of my staff as well. But I'm on, I think, about 24 supplements every day, including your viral capsule, and part of that is non-medicines, but in the way that I can feed all my metabolic processes and my fueling processes, because I'm a competitor. Of course, I can't run next door to Buc-ee's, which is right next to us, and grab the sugar and the Coke and the caffeine, and that process stopped back when I developed my transformation plan, which was with Dr. Chase Banks in 2011. And so I had to let go of those normal conventional ways to energize up being an emergency vet back then, and now I have to find alternatives, which are all things I want to feel good that I put in my body, but I want to definitely recognize that I still fed needs while I'm depriving myself in other areas. And I think that's the only way to balance it. So I haven't had a processed meal or fast food probably in 4 years. And probably the biggest challenge of working my shifts, and probably my only downtime in my 4 hours off at home, is actually meal prepping, which is relaxing in itself. And we all kind of get in the groove. And now it's almost OCD to have my refrigerator ready, but it's a peace of mind because I know that I have food and my energy ready, and when I start feeling down or run down, I have my go-to sources of energy, which of course are vitamins and supplements. But instead of pre-workouts, I might do ketone powder, or I know that I've got my meals and I just need to plow through, and then rest will be at some point, days ahead. But the bigger picture right now is to serve, and if I'm not up for the task, then I fail everybody. So I definitely lean strongly into basically food as fuel, but all that I can do medically to support my energy processes, and of course hydration as well, which is a challenge too.
and that's the thing is that even in the best laid out plans, eating. I mean, when you have a situation like yours, or even not as hectic as that, being prepared, will go a long way. But then that's also where supplements come in, because people have it's very, the subject of supplements is very polarizing, but they're just that, like we always say, listen to the words, a supplement. So it's supplementing, it's already a healthy diet, so it's not taking the place of, it's filling the gaps of when you can't just concentrate completely on a clean diet, it's filling in those specific gaps, and then adding other things like like you mentioned, the ketone powders, like that specifically is just food energy. It's not it's giving your body a specific food energy in the form of we've talked about a lot, BHB, beta hydroxybutyrate, it's ketones, but there's you also do a lot of other things if and when you have the time. What other, do you do any other, I know the oral supplements, do you do any other, like I know you've come in and done vitamin drips and things like that. Now, what other higher end or specialized, supplementation or techniques do you have? You mentioned the laser and other things like that too. So
well, of course we have the class 4 laser, and then we have also a therapy ultrasound, which to me, my juggle is always, catabolism, which is like my enemy, and of course my cortisol with stress, and I've learned about all that as I got into fitness, which I started from emergency background already, and so anything that I feel like I have that I'm, at good recommending for, our canine athletes or our rehab patients, I feel like if I can attest to it, I feel more confident recommending it, and I can stand behind it. And
so you're the guinea pig.
I should be.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna
both
sell
of us,
it,
we both are too.
We both are too.
I mean, if I'm going to recommend it for someone's pet, I want to know how it feels. Does it hurt? What's the contact time? Does it get too hot? And so I use all those for myself. But certainly, the data and the research go behind it, and all of that extends for human athletic benefits, but as well to combat some of the damage that I'm doing from being up all night and just running ragged and not fueling probably as well as I should, but fueling by sleep. So from there, most of it, everything else is mainly like omegas. And of course, you help watch my hormones, which is a huge thing, especially now in my age bracket. And, the defeating angles that go along with adrenal stresses that I've already impacted myself with. But I've got to, I can't even remember all of my supplements. I know tyrozine's one, I know GABA's one, HTP is one. Basically as well, our veterinary industry is right now #1 for suicide, and quite some damaging.
Is it really?
It is. It's #1 out of all the other careers.
That's awful.
It is awful, and so anytime I recognize, sleep, exhaustion, a failed case, an upset client, not being able to band-aid a broken heart, we wear all that home, and on top of that, needing to look after, I'm craving now this, or I want sugar. So adding those additional things mentally for me, I feel like keeps me on the up and up. It could be a placebo type thing where I know I'm taking things to strive for healthier mentation, but I do feel like they achieve a benefit. And then of course when I'm super ragged, and I mean like palpitations, ear ringing, some days, my muscles are, tight and have spasms, and then of course I'm just like a zombie when I get off of a 36 or 38 hour shift. I do lean to you certainly for your beneficial IVs, and I do feel like, of course, the 2 hours you've been sitting in that chair is like
that's your
heaven.
That
But
itself is a rest.
It is, but from there, I'm internally refreshing and rejuvenating, which I can't achieve through just diet alone. And so I feel like I'm doing the best that I can to be the best that I can for my patients and my team, my staff, and of course my family as well.
And after hearing all that, and then still knowing that you're getting your training in somewhere.
Yes, that's the next thing that I wanted to ask about. How are you getting training in? So here's the deal. For everybody, one of the biggest excuses I hear, and you too, from clients and patients is I don't have the time.
It doesn't work.
No.
It's not enough.
That's not enough. But at the same time, you can't complain about, well, I'm overweight, I'm this. And the thing is, so you will prioritize what is important.
Yeah.
If reading a book a week is important, you'll find a way to do it.
Sure.
If exercising, and so, but the thing about it is eating a clean diet, exercising regularly. All of those are health approaches. Just not just, hey, I just want to, because here's the problem. We keep saying this over and over and over, week after week. The problem that has happened with diet and with nutrition and exercise and activity is that everybody just has sequestered it over to the aesthetic. Well, I don't want to look like that. Well, I don't want to gain muscle, like is what a lot of women.
Good luck. It's real easy.
Yeah, it's real easy.
Yeah.
But what it is we've sequestered it over here just specifically to the aesthetic, and it's way beyond that. It's your health. And then now when people are coming and going, hey, what should I do to be healthy, and what should I take, and what supplement should I? It's like, number one, how do you eat?
Get off your butt.
What do you do as far as activity? Do you even walk? Do you do anything? Are you out in the sun? All the things we've talked about. So with you, there's all I'm getting at is in all honesty, if there's really no excuse.
There's never.
There's really
no excuse.
there's no excuse. You even if it's 30 minutes, even if it's 20 minutes, to add but you have to schedule in your. So with all that being said, how are you fitting it into your schedule?
Well, right now, creatively, everything is in the garage. But I have a pretty nice gym at this point. When you can find the right deals through Amazon or eBay, you know, slowly I can get
Everything's starting to
I need.
restock.
It is. And you can pretty much meet your basic needs plus your cardio as well. But my biggest drive coming through the path of my journey as a transformation, 2011, I was 36% body fat. I just fed myself on Dr. Pepper and junk food. And, you know, that's all I knew. And when I discovered the whole way to combat future disease as well as aging, and of course the aesthetics were a very attractive goal, but I actually set my plan to compete only to keep myself accountable, and for the terrifying pressure of having to be on stage in a bikini where my whole life I just hid behind clothes and layers.
It was funny. We were right at the same place at the same time when we started, and that was with Chase back in 2010, 11. That was exactly when I was starting too, and he's who gave me my start at the same time. And I, you know, going from being, I was much heavier body fat wise then, probably weighed about the same thing I do now, but it was a completely different look.
Yeah, you're marbled.
I was well marbled.
You're a well marbled steak.
Yes. So it was fun to watch you go through that at the same time I was, you know, even from just as a competitor and saying, oh, she's doing really good at this, and I can do that too. I know I can. You know, I can keep up. She works so hard, and it's been fun to see over the last 10 years.
Well,
now.
we want to really dive into all that. I just got the note. We got to take one more quick break for some words from our sponsors. We'll be back in about 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Dr. Sadaf Javed. I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist, and I see adults also. I've been practicing in the greater Houston area for the past 5 years, and my practice is in the west side of town. In these unprecedented times, it is so important to check in with your mental health. Please pick up the phone and call 832-304-7244 or mycognitivepsychiatry.com, and we would be happy to help. Thank you.
This was a proud sponsor of KNLY 91.1 FM. It's time to change. If you like country, we play it. If you like pop, we play it. If you like Latin music, we play it. If you like rock and roll, we play it, because no one does fusion music like we do. 91.1 FM, The Ball.
Welcome back, everybody, and we want to jump right into, basically getting all the information about how Jennifer trains, how she stays in shape, because she's pretty much, if you see her, very close to stage ready almost always. A lot of people have this ebb and flow of when they're off stage and on stage, and you pretty much try to you maintain most of the time. So again, we were kind of starting to touch on it. So what specifically, I know you're training a lot in the gym, in your home gym.
Yes.
What specifically are you doing, and how often, what specific training approach are you doing? Yeah, what is your program look like?
The first thing is I definitely don't set myself to I've got to get up and do this, and if I'm not feeling it, it's not going to be, to me, the fullest it could be. I set 30 minutes aside, and usually it lasts a little longer than that, but it's I have a 30-minute window. I mean, that's enough time to sit down and check an email or watch a TV show, which I never watch TV, but I wait till I feel like I'm ready. Either it's nice outside, which may be 2 in the morning, depending on when I'm home, but when I really feel like I have the energy to really put into it, and to me the secret also is music, and having the right tunes and just kind of getting in that zone. And once you're locked in that, from there, I do one body part per basically training. So yesterday, even though I didn't get home to work, was supposed to be legs. Tonight will be basically glutes. But it's 30 minutes. This is my goal. And then just being creative, whether it's bands, lunges. Now I have of course, a box
step-ups
to step up on, and then I've got my leg press now in my garage.
Nice.
But it's being proud to have like 5 things that I can do, and really know that I can kill it on those things, but not trying to overachieve. The hour plus. It's like
just
30 minutes
executing.
of hard muscle work.
Yeah.
And then my goal is to always just be fatigued at the end, but I'm actually so energized when I finish my workouts.
Yep. Nobody got more tired from exercising.
It's like I can't replenish that. That's the best I feel every day is at the end of that workout. Of course, mentally, but when I got into the whole process of transformation, as we kind of touched on a little bit, when I got into it, I way underestimated the confidence boosts that I would get just from being in control of doing something that's right for me and right for my wellness, and that's going to be a lifetime, as far as benefits, but creating the lifestyle and being the one that defies, the challenging schedule, and knowing I got that 30 minutes in is super rewarding, and I can go to bed, even if it's for 1 hour, feeling like I accomplished what I shouldn't have been able to do by squeezing that in. So attainability to me is right now about every other day, because if I'm at work for 24 hours, of course I don't train every day, but about every other day I strive for about 30 minutes. Usually it turns into 45 minutes of just one muscle. So maybe arms or back or shoulders, and then legs, and that kind of wraps up my week. And of course, if I'm walking the dogs, I include that as my cardio. But to me, music, once I get my music and my beats on, I'm ready to go. And then of course, picking the right time. If it's night, I love, because I hang out in my yard, and the stars right now are so gorgeous, and we've had all these comets and everything going on, and so I try to get the most out
is
of
that
it.
just by feel? Like when it feels like the right time, or are you
yes,
using
and I
any
think because I'm wired for nighttime work anyway,
Yeah.
so I feel like having a career about 25 years now, 24 years in emergency medicine, to me nighttime is kind of just when I'm mentally ready to go, and I'm just worn out in the mornings because I'm used to being a day sleeper, and so if I achieve like every morning at 10 o'clock I'm going to train, that's not going to be a good workout, and it's not going to be very much fun. So finding the groove for me, which may for some be at the end of the day before going home after work, to kind of just have that moment for yourself, but that's 30 minutes that I can only give myself, that I could only do those things, all the benefits. Nobody else can hand me the muscle. You can try to rejuvenate me for that, but no one can give that to you. You have to want it and get it, but the reward of I made this happen is tenfold the benefit of what actually happens in the garage or the gym. But knowing every day I've made some sort of moment to attempt to purposefully have a good 30-minute workout.
So that's a very advanced place, right?
Yes.
There's not a lot of people that can take that approach and say, I'm going to train when I'm ready.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be effective at it.
It is.
So let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Let's go back to 2010.
Which I love that from all the way back then.
Let's go back to that. What led you to that lifestyle? What was the turning point or the tipping point for you to say, I want that control?
Well, number one, I had to have, which was back then Dr. Chase Banks, I had to have somebody keep me accountable, so I actually understood you have to be able to overcome so many, whether it's the kids wanting to do this or today I'm tired, all the excuses tend to crawl on my lap, but having somebody else being a partner in the routine made me do it because I knew I was going to have somebody scrutinize that, and I had to answer and be honest about it. So that truly at the beginning, the accountability was irreplaceable. But of course back then, it was more of training myself to be on a regiment, and so we did have more of a scheduled time, whether it was 20 minutes of cardio in the morning and then lift for an hour, but having someone that you can go to be an encourager, to be positive, and if you have a bad day or maybe you slipped up, because I remember back then when I would have like an accidental cheat and I would have to admit it, it was, that's all right, tomorrow just add this on and we're going to keep going forward. You have to have a cheerleader in your corner. Doing it by yourself is very difficult when you get in. Now, I hope to translate this, and my journey has definitely not been easy. Nobody in my family appreciated bodybuilding or really understood what it was that I decided to do. But
I don't think anybody in anybody's family appreciates it until they go through it.
But afterward, it's like I'm completely 180-degree different inside. And the aesthetic is more of just a reflection of how I feel about myself.
That's so good. We've said that multiple times about how the outside reflects what's going on inside.
It does.
And it's such a true statement.
Yeah, it does. And you have to break down, it's a lot of self-doubt, a lot of mental barriers, And of course, bad habits, and things that we can condition to. But primarily at the beginning, it was having a set routine and having a coach, a mentor, or a partner to kind of encourage me on, because it was tough, especially if your body's not used to such a regiment or even knowing how to train. I mean, technique-wise, things were off, and you'd have sore days. Now I try to get sore. It's my goal by the end of the workout, just to know that I made some sort of impact. But this has been, again, since 2011, so it's been quite a crafting lifestyle that I've developed.
You mentioned a little bit earlier, and I can't remember if it was on air or in between, but how now getting to the place you are where everything is executed so perfectly in a way, even against all these adverse conditions, but trying to even just relax and not be that person anymore is almost impossible.
It is.
And I find that trying to step away from that was much harder than getting to be that person, because kind of it feels like once you've gotten there, you've got to fight to keep it forever.
You do. And I think some of that goes back for me personally, was the beginning of how I felt about myself, which may be a body dysmorphia. I'm sure there's some things rolled into that. But it was who I was back then, which was I'm not good enough. And I don't want to go back to that stage. And so for me, grasping that 30 minutes to train might seem a little bit obsessive. I definitely acknowledge now the immediate benefits mentally and energy-wise, but the reassurance that I didn't fall into those old habits, which I outran and worked so hard to get away from, years ago, and I don't ever want to be that person again. So it's easier for me to maintain year-round because it's easier on me mentally, and to be, a positive for myself.
Yeah, I think
And if y'all keep hearing, she keeps mentioning 30 minutes. A lot of people think I need to go in there. I don't have an hour or 2 hours. You shouldn't be in there an hour or 2 hours for the most part. 30 minutes every other day, that's not unrealistic
No,
for someone that doesn't have your schedule, much less somebody that has your schedule.
Well, and I think food does the most of it in
Oh,
between.
yeah,
And
it
that's
does.
why, I don't stress over that. But, over fatiguing my body in addition to what I already do isn't going to get me as far as I want to go anyway. And so within 30 minutes of just concentrated training, I know that my results will be there, and they are what they are. But that's all I need in order to get in what I need.
The hardest part, and I tell every patient, is to actually get up and go, because they're tired. A lot of them sometimes, I'm too tired. And it may be for any number of reasons, right? But once they get there, if you can make yourself get there, no one has ever become more tired from exercise and activity. They really haven't. In fact, just like you said, the mental clarity, the brain boost, there's studies showing, a lot of peer-reviewed studies showing about the antidepressant effect. So not to mention, again, to us, it's about health and wellness, not simply. The aesthetics are secondary. The aesthetics are a good byproduct. So for all the people that think, well, it's, I don't want to look like that, or I don't want, that, which I think a lot of times that's an excuse.
Everybody wants to look like that.
Everybody, but it's not, again, about the aesthetics. It's about the health and wellness and longevity.
Right.
That's that's one of the most potent anti-aging tools is regular exercise, defense against disease, immune system boosting. So again, lots of other reasons to do it other than for looks.
Yes. Now, because you do compete in aesthetic competitions, now you've done two very similar but different sports.
Yes.
Right? Can we talk about the difference in those? So, you're a pageant girl.
Yes, and I'm very new to that.
Yeah.
And even from lifting and being in the gym, that's not who I was growing up.
Right.
That's putting myself way out there, too many eyes looking at me. But the pageant scene I added about 2 years ago, and it was more of at first I feel like I didn't belong, which was already, okay, now I'm getting this bad mental vibe again. I'm self-defeating, so I'm going to have to go for it. And either they accept me or they don't.
And this was after being very successful as a bikini competitor.
Yes.
And did you ever step up to figure at some point?
I was figure, then I went over to bikini.
That's what it was. I remember there was a switch in there somewhere.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so you were very successful at that.
Yes.
And to get enough to get a pro card in that. And then to switch to another sport and lose that confidence, what is that like going through that?
Well, it just recognizes that we're all the same on the inside. We all need to find ways to break our own barriers. And so I found a new way to put a new barrier up in front of myself and to doubt my capabilities as a woman by comparing things on the aesthetic level, which is what I again, in naivety, chalked up pageants to be. However, yes, some are like that. But the fortunate direction I went and the directors that I met opened my eyes again that the majority of it is all about community service. And yes, makeup, glam, we all want to look pretty, but the competitive nature is more of how well can you own yourself and wear your skin and be proud of who you are. And there's women of all shapes and sizes, all ages, and when you see someone walk up and they're just loving themselves and they've done so much for the community, and it's not necessarily about any good that they feel, it's I have this ability or this resource and let's help these people out, or my this hospital needs this, let's go. And it's more about motivating the community, which is what I'm partly all about from my ER standpoint, and being very community involved. But it was developing a sisterhood, which you can only again on the surface, like with bodybuilding, think it was about looks. It's nothing about that. It's about how you look and how you feel and how you dress inside. And then everything else is just for show and glam. And so it was hard for me to translate from fitness and bodybuilding to actually dressing up. Number one, that was a huge challenge.
Putting clothes on is the hard part.
And I was like, whoa, and like, gowns, like this is way different than competing. I'm used to my suit and my heels and let's go. But it was a new way. I had to learn how to do, this on-stage questions. I have this whole new challenge ahead of me, which is not part of lifting, which is more self-development and mental development, and educating myself about public events and being able to interview, all those skills translated to just being a better quality doctor. And I feel now, and definitely because my kids, I've also competed in a pageant last year, and from that they still embrace the experience and want to compete again because they saw it made them stronger individuals.
That's great.
Because they're more confident, and you can't groom that until you've walked through some of those experiences of walking on a stage solo or talking to judges and answering questions about yourself and poising your answers in an effective manner to communicate, a detail. And again, despite whatever career path, fortunately for me, it works great with my clients, but it worked. What the gym does on my outside of me worked everything else that I wasn't working on when I was training. And so it was the best way to blend for overall self-growth, but it was mostly another sector of what I doubted, that I wouldn't fit in, or I won't be what they need to be. And it's like, screw that. Like, I'm going to go and be myself. I'm going to bring the muscle, and I'm going to be that girl. And they either love it or they hate it. And, they loved it. And it was great just to learn what they knew and, teach me makeup, and I'll teach you all about how to eat right. And it's just a mutuality of two worlds blending together. So it's awesome.
So is it something you're going to continue? Now, going back, Miss Alaska this past year, are we going to have another look at that next year?
Actually, I was just, as of yesterday, crowned now as Miss Texas, Universal Worlds. So I'll be competing next November for the USAs through the Universal World pageant. So proudly today now I'm Miss Texas. So we'll kind of run with that.
Well, that's better anyways. I mean, Alaska's cool and all, and they do have the cool race, but
so I get to represent both states. But yes, I definitely want to stay on that because again, it's just developing relationships and so much self-growth and just putting myself out there. But I have to represent that brand, which again just keeps me one step above of how does this look on media, or how does this look to the next woman, or if somebody's in the same shoes I was doubting themselves, how can I be someone to be an encourager? And it's just another outlet to help me do that.
Yeah, after hearing all this today, as a woman out there, if you don't hear this story and get motivated to do a little bit more than what you're doing today, just a little bit more.
That's all it is.
Win the day, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, we're going to go to our last commercial break, and we'll be back in about 2 minutes. Got it.
It started as a dream. When I was a little kid, I always wanted to have my own restaurant, and it was a dream that finally we had the opportunity to build it here in the Woodlands, and I'm so happy with it.
It's a really authentic Italian food. I try to maintain the most original possible. It's very important. Every day I make my fresh pasta.
Chi mangia bene, mangia italiano. Please come and visit us.
This was a proud sponsor of KNLY 91.1 FM.
Welcome back to Superhuman with Dr. V and Jason Phelps, and we're about to finish up. And just to reiterate, we'll let y'all know where you can find myself, Jason, and Dr. Jennifer. As far as me, if anybody is experiencing the COVID-15, the weight gain, and the fatigue, if anybody's really seeking to really increase their, and we've seen a huge influx of a lot of people now really being motivated to improve their health. We've seen a lot of patients over come in over the last couple of months. Feel free to reach out to us at Core Sports Health, coresportshealth.com in Conroe, and I'd be happy to kind of walk y'all through a pathway to improving health and wellness, and the correct way, rather than slamming y'all with just another medication. And again, I work hand in hand with Jason, and if anybody's looking for proper training, nutrition, everything, y'all can find Jason at.
I'm also offering in-home training now too. So for those of you that are perhaps not ready to go back to a gym or don't want to go to a gym for whatever reason, reach out to me. We are scheduling things in-home now. So that's another thing we're offering. That's new. Yeah.
Come train.
That's right. Hang on, my trainer's about to be here.
Yeah. And last but not least, I really, really want to have everybody have the ability to, number one, have your animals taken care of if needs, need be at Animal ER of Northwest Houston, and we'll make sure we put up the website, and you can find them on Instagram and Facebook. But where would specifically on the break you kind of mentioned something about wanting to be an available role model, and why? Can you kind of reiterate on that, just talk about what you kind of talked about on the break?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely reflect through every achievement. To me, is not just yay, I got an accolade, big me. From there, it's I can do this, and it's a reminder that we all set our own limitations, and we all decide how far we allow ourselves to go. But having someone that does have like my schedule, which is quite a challenge, plus my 2 kids on top of that, plus I have Wonder Pet Rehab, and then I write for 3 magazines, and I have all these things on the side, mainly because I want to constantly give, but in of that I would love to give to women or men who mainly just need someone from the real world side that started out with a transformation journey. I've not walked into this just because it was handed to me. Everything that I have is from hard work only. And I did not have someone like that I could reach out to growing up. All I had was media and everything else that we can all attain,
and it's
especially
so
online.
Convoluted.
Yeah.
And it is. You don't know what to believe, but even that, you may not know where to go because you don't know if it's trustworthy. And definitely, I've kind of been hand grown and very fortunate, to start out certainly at the same side of your journey with Dr. Banks, and it's changed my life. But I know there's only a few people that I actually can trust specifically with my health, and then adding you to just completes the whole package, Willie. So from there, if anybody is looking to kind of make the right start, or certainly even just wondering how they can make health fitness more attainable in their lifestyle, or what pageantry is like, or how to compete, any of those things that I do, I would love for them to reach out to me. And probably the easiest would be Dr. Hennesey at iCloud.com.
Okay.
Yep. Or you can find me at driven.com, which is my website.
Driven.com.
Yes,
Cool.
but it's JRIVHEN. So it's like Jen Hen, but created as Driven.
Gotcha.
So that'll be on my Facebook. So
Gotcha.
well.
And can people reach out to you on, where is it, on Facebook and Instagram?
Actually, both. FitVet Jen is how you'll find me on Instagram. So just find me there. I'm slow at checking my messages, clearly because I'm busy. So bear with me. But I will get back to you. And then as well, Facebook is under Dr. Hennessey. So very easy to find me.
Awesome.
Well, this has been awesome, and I foresee having you back to to go over a lot of other topics. Any parting words from Jason, or
It's honestly, it's been fun to have. This is the first competitor we've had in here, and from my world, which has been kind of fun.
Yeah, since we started out at the beginning together.
Yes, and bodybuilding and competing is something that's very important to me. It has been a huge part of my life for the last decade or so, and will continue to be. So it's always fun to talk to somebody that's been on that same journey for as
and
long as we
appreciates
have.
that
Yeah.
it's definitely not handed to you.
There's
You
more,
earn it.
and that understands there's more to it than just the way you look.
Yes.
It's about that empowerment. It's about taking control over what got lost somewhere along the way. So I love seeing that that's the way you still see it, because that's important to me.
Awesome. Well, again, if y'all want to, reach out to us, feel free to reach out to Jason, myself, or Dr. Jennifer, and we will see you next week, Thursday, 12 p.m. on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. And thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch y'all next week.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, John. Appreciate you being here.